Hi everyone, Brandon here, and we're talking about 6 times 10, and this is going to be for December. So we want to give you some time to look at stuff in November. So just to remind you, 6 times 10, we're providing 6 things under a certain topic or idea that you can look at, maybe choose one and utilize that for next month. So this month we're talking about coding. So Hour of Code is this month of December, and in December, between the December 9th and the 15th, there's a big push to have students do an hour of coding within that week. Really, Hour of Code, though, can be done throughout the whole entire school year, the whole year, really. But there's a big push for coding and how important coding is. So all of our resources we're sharing this week are going to be about coding. So if you think of the ISTE standards, this is students as computational thinkers. And the first thing resource we're sharing is why coding. So this is a website called Teach Your Kids the Code. It gives a lot of information about the different coding aspects of why coding is important. There is actually a lack of coders out there in the world, and it's going to be a job that students could walk into making almost a 6-figure salary. So if getting those coders, and that's a possible career for students. So that's why coding. The second one here mentioned a second ago was Hour of Code. So Hour of Code, if you want to have your students code that week of December 9th to the 15th, Hour of Code would be a great place to start. You can create accounts for your students. It's free, and they can all start at different levels, and some students will take off and do a ton, some will do a few things, but it's cool because it moves on as fast as they go. So Hour of Code, you can check that out if you want to get your students on, and this is K through 12 for Hour of Code. The next one here, this is a website and an app for the iPad, but you can also do it on the website called Codable. In this app, students can learn to code as well, just like with Hour of Code. It's a little bit more pointed and finite in the coding they can learn, but there's lots of resources, so that's just another way. This is really good. The app is good for younger students too, so K to 5. So that's Codable. Swift Playgrounds, this is an app only on the iPad. You could borrow some iPads from us if you want. So if you're interested, especially during that week, make sure you get to us quick because they will run out of iPads to lend. With Swift Playgrounds, it's more towards older students, and there's a series of different types of coding activities. Starts very basic, but then gets to the point where students could actually start coding apps and everything. And it's all by Apple, free, a whole curriculum in Swift Playgrounds. So the last two here we're going to share. So coding tools, this is something we have in our CSD Codes website, and they're resources that teachers can borrow from the Lending Library. So we have a bunch of different things that we have in the Lending Library really have to do with coding. So we have Spheros, which a lot of you have heard about. We've had them for a couple of years. There's Ozobots that have been around. There's some little bits. You can borrow iPads to do things like Swift Playground and Codable. There's a Root Robot that actually has a magnet and goes right onto a marker board, and you can code it to draw and do different things, and music and stuff. And then we just got some a new technology called Splats that we're testing out. We're actually going to be doing in some lunch and learns, and students can actually code these pads that they can go back and forth and do different activities. So there's pre-made activities, but there's activities kids can code themselves. So some pretty cool stuff that we have with coding. And then last but not least, the CSD Codes website that we created talks about coding, gives you more resources, and sort of points more towards elementary, middle, and high school. So if you want to check that out to find more information about coding and some other resources that are available, you can check out CSD Codes. It's a website we've created for teachers and parents and students. So I want to remind you of the Lending Library, which I sort of just talked about. So don't forget, you can borrow stuff from the Lending Library. Just contact me, Lisa, or Kathleen to get on the calendar for the Lending Library. And our instructional support calendar, we're still continuing to go out into schools and be available on drop-in days. Our calendar's here. We will be visiting the high school in December as needed. If you want to meet with us, please reach out and we'll schedule an appointment. And then we are going to try to get the high school in as a regular drop-in starting in January. So we have that, and just to note, we're only in the buildings one time in December because of the shortened month. And then we're doing some digital citizenship presentations at EP and some lunch and learns on drones at Cheltenham Elementary. Just want to point that out. So this is 6 times 10. Until next month, or seeing us in the schools, this is Brandon signing out. Thanks, everybody.